And good afternoon, good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing on this fine Thursday? Welcome, welcome. I'm Steve Leahy. This is Thursday Live. I think we are going to change the name of it to Over the Pond. So just got to get the graphics up for that and everything. But tonight is the I don't know what we're doing. Oh, we're doing the gas station, right? It's been crazy. It's been crazy. It's been good. So I hope you're all having a good week. I have a little bit of show and tell that we'll get through today. Just a few things that are kind of going on around here. And then it's right back into it. So I'm working on this gas station painting, which is a pretty involved painting for me. And I really want to get it done. I was commissioned for this the end of last year. There wasn't really a time frame for it, but I really want to get it kind of buttoned up. So we'll show you where we're at with that. All right, so let's switch over and we'll get to it. All right, cool. All right, and I will say hello to everyone as we get rolling here. Let's see, what do we got? Enzo, what's happening? Dan, what's going on? Yes, Thursday. Oh boy. So I've been basically working on this gas station painting all week. I started it not really last week. I've been kind of working on it a little bit here and there, but the push was really to kind of get it rolling. So it's been pretty nonstop for that. Let me switch over to here. Let's see if I can get the comments over here, which would be nice, and then we'll get going, I think. There we go. It's a refresh thing. There we go. All right. Yeah, let me show you some show and tell first real quick, and then we'll get going on it. Max, what's going on? Awesome, Max. That's great. Thanks. Al, Mike, you're on. I'm so glad you're on. Okay. So actually, let me run through these real quick, and then we'll get to Mike. So these are four of the five 543s from this week. I just wanted to show you guys because usually they kind of fly out of here on Monday, but I have them so you guys can actually see them. So this is the 76 Eldorado, which was a fun painting to do. Yep, so that's the Eldorado. This one was a favorite. This is the Mount St. Helens painting. And if you look real close at the border on that little outline, that is actually ash from the explosion. So that was a fun one to do. Back in 1980. Simon Carter, what's up, buddy? Cody, hello. All right, then the moon, Earthrise over the moon. Kind of my take on the Apollo 8 picture. So that's how that one came out. And finally, I'm glad he's on. So this is this little quick Reaper that I did. And I did this using my new skull template from Mike's Brush. And Mike is here. So if you have any questions about these templates, they are really cool. Yes, he's got a ton of them. They're plastic on one side, and they've got kind of a paper backing on the other one to help with absorption. So I used this skull right here for my Reaper, and it was a lot of fun because you kind of gets the drawing in really quick, and you just kind of finish it out. So I kind of made it up. So that was it. But there was another thing that came from Mike yesterday, and it absolutely blew me away. So Mike does these really cool acrylic and wood laser burnt coasters, and this is the airbrush one. It's got all the cool airbrush parts on it. But then I got this from Mike, and this is amazing. So this is a laser, essentially a laser kind of relief of my dad playing guitar. So my dad passed away last May, and Mike did this for me, and it blew me away. I opened it up, and I was like just absolutely blown away. So my dad was a guitar player and an artist and a graphic designer and a computer guy. He did it all. So yeah, I was stunned. And then there was a lot of cool, like I got my own logo. So that's very cool. So thanks to Mike. So if you have any questions on these, you can't get a picture of my dad, I don't think, on his site. But the very cool airbrush ones is a square acrylic one, which is actually on the other side. I don't have that one, but it's the same kind of thing. It's a rectangular piece of acrylic, and the airbrush is burnt right into it. So these are all really cool things that you can get through Mike's Brush. The other thing, Mike, I did get your message about the spatter tip. So if you go on my Tech Tuesday about the spatter tip, I didn't quite have that at a high enough pressure to really show what it can do. Mike made that for from his t-shirt days. So that's it. That's not for drinks. No. Don't worry about that, Mike. I won't. But you know what? The other one, like mine, I might put some. I might clear that, and then I can use it for drinks because I could use that on my desk. So yeah, these are raw wood. So so yeah, you couldn't just use this as a coaster because you'll screw up the wood. But I think if there's a heavy enough, like I said, I'm gonna just flood these with clear on all sides. So I think I should be able to get away with a coaster with it. Not the dad one, but the other one. Honey, what's up? Hello. Steve McCready, what's going on? All right, and we are warming up here in Ohio, which is lovely. Hopefully it's going to hang around. It was almost 70 yesterday, which is crazy. All right, let's get into it. I'll show you where we're at. That's all I have for show and tell, so that makes it easy because, Thursdays are more working than anything. Here is what I have done, and you guys on the advertising photo for this, the little thumbnail for this today, you could see all this kind of done. What I've done since I took that photo is I started masking off the areas for the asphalt, since this is really a huge part of the painting. There's a lot going on here, but it's pretty similar. Essentially all it is this kind of cracked driveway with the oil stains and everything. So, but it's a pretty broad area. So I decided to mask off the things that I didn't want getting paint on, mostly the edges. We're not going to be doing that today. We're actually going to be finishing up or working on this area back in here. And there's a couple of reasons. Well, one main reason is because I need to get the background done first. Once the background is done, then everything else is the gas station in the foreground. So awesome. Buried in a foot of snow. That's awesome. Hey Lee, what's up? Teresa Justine, what's happening? So I want to get the background done so that everything left is really just a gas station. And that way, because when I talked about this last week too, and as I was working on the trees, the gentleman who commissioned this doesn't want the focus on the stuff in the background. He really wants to focus on the gas station. So that way, if I get all of the background done, then I can actually adjust it. For instance, I can add a little bit of white over the whole thing to kind of push it back to really let everything in the gas station kind of pop forward. So that's one reason to get it all done first, and that's kind of where we're at. Now, the exception is the Sunoco sign. I kind of had to do that with the building in the background. So we're going to start with that today because I have a little adjustment that I need to make on that. The other interesting thing that happened was I have this is the reference photo that I was basing my whole painting off of. There's a light post here. So I went online and I looked up all the light posts that were for this era gas station. Now the nice thing is these gas stations look like they were franchise built even back in the 40s because I found a ton of pictures of the Sunoco station, not this Sunoco station, but other Sunoco stations that looked exactly like this. So that's great. That's great from kind of a research standpoint, because this is the only photo that I have like this of this actual gas station. So I had to fill in all the blanks. So I didn't know what this light looked like. So I went online, I got a bunch of pictures. It seems like this light terminated at the top with just a single kind of a hooded old-timey light. So I sent the photos to Tony, the guy who owns this painting essentially, and asked him what he remembered about the light, and we went back and forth. And so we got to kind of come to a solution for that light, try to figure out what it looks like, because it will appear in the painting about here. So I got to get that resolved. Now the bummer of that is I have the line going all the way to the top of this panel, the pencil lines. The light's only going to come to about here, so I got to eventually do a repair where those lines are poking through. So I got to actually go over the sky a bunch of times to get it to get rid of that. Essentially, what I really should have done was waited on drawing that in, painted the sky, and then just painted the light in. But I really wasn't thinking about it. So that's one thing. The other thing is, he seemed to remember, and I don't know if this light was replaced when he worked there as a kid, but in older or newer Sunoco stations, or older than the ones that were built in the 40s, this light was a V-shaped, and then there was a kind of like a long light on the top of it. So if that's the case, that's what he remembered. that light might have been replaced between when this picture was taken, which looks like it was early 60s, and when he worked there, which would have probably been late 60s. So they might have replaced this light with that V-shaped one. So in which case that's kind of a bummer because I've already got the single post in here, but I can fix that if that's the way we go. So anyway, all that plays into this little section right here. So that's kind of why we're getting that done. So hopefully that gets you caught up with what we're doing. Simon's having a cheers. Simon, that's awesome. I'm not cheersing today. Well, I am. I have coffee. So I have coffee and Gatorade today. So I'll cheers with you for that. But if you guys are around next week, there won't be as much running around next week. So I will cheers with you properly next week if you guys are up for it. Awesome. Yeah, that splatter tip is on the other side too. I just saw the comment on that. Yeah, it's a very cool thing. And I don't know, Mike, if you're on, that splatter tip also looks like it could double as kind of an airbrush stand. Like it's wide enough. It has this little brace on the bottom. I didn't try it, but it looks like you can just leave it on and then or put it on between and just put your airbrush down. So I don't know if that's true either. I have to test that out. But it's Mike's brush. That's who you want to go look for all that. And of course, if you're over there, join Mike's page for a nominal fee. You too can be part of the Skull Squad, which is a lot of fun. He's got a lot of extra perks for the different levels of that. So that's fun. All right, so let's get to it. All right. And I know I mentioned this last time. I don't have it here. It's actually on it. The painting has a little tiny easel that the Open Studio painting, the Harley painting. I am having so much fun with that now because it's really starting to come together. So if you get a chance, go check out the Open Studio. We're on, I think, episode 27. So coming up on 14 hours on that painting, which is a blast. Yeah, Mike, I don't know, I had to double check. I had to go back and look because I'm like, is this also a stand? Because I put it down and I'm like, wow. I guess it would just mean, it would just depend on whether the needle comes in contact when you put pressure on that. But it is very cool. Yeah, it's got all kinds of good stuff. All right, so I don't know if you guys can see the colors. I got to get a new monitor because what I can see, I don't know necessarily is the correct color because the monitor I bought was a pretty inexpensive one. I think I need to get something really nice for the monitor. But in any event, the Sunoco is a really kind of a cool blue, like a real bluish blue. But I used the phthalo blue to do the Sunoco sign, and it actually has kind of a greenish cast to it, which isn't really going to work. So I got to correct that before I go too much farther, so I figured we'll start with that. Essentially, this building is almost all, I'd say a lot of it is freehand. Of course, the clapboard lines on the side and the little the window details, those are all paintbrush, but a lot of this is just freehand airbrush. And I chose gray, again, because I want this to sit way far in the back. I don't want it to just pop out at all. So a quick way to do that is to make it grayscale, which is nice. It's going to be a color painting, but your brain won't register that this building is actually black and white. You'll see it as a gray building or white building. So even though I left all the color out of it, the brain will still kind of pick up because it's got green trees and all this other stuff. You'll just hopefully see that as like a white and gray building. All right. So what I need to do first is I need to kind of shift this Sunoco sign, the blue part of it, to more. I got to get rid of the green essentially. So this works a lot the same way, and I'll talk while I'm doing this. This works a lot of the same way as the blue shift. So if I have blue shift in a painting and I use that red oxide to kind of shift it. Where's my tape? Come on, man. Oh, it's where the tape was where it should be, which is why I couldn't find it. So when I'm using like that red oxide shifter, this is just really reduced red oxide. And if I use that to get rid of the blue shift, essentially I'm going to do the same thing with this Sunoco side, but just to get rid of the green. Now to get rid of green, you need the opposite color, which is red. So once I get this kind of masked off a little bit, I'm going to get a little bit of red going on this. So I masked this off because I don't want any of this red anywhere else, and I don't want to have to try to screw around with it essentially. I just want to kind of get this done. So the best way to do this is to mask this off. This is regular FBS gold tape. It's what I use everywhere because it works real well. Adrian, thank you. Awesome. Welcome, 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 welcome. Yes, this is our Over the Pond live stream. So my good friends on that side of the world don't have to necessarily stay up. I mean, I'd love you all there on Monday nights, but you don't have to stay up till crazy times to try to see all this stuff. All right, I think I'm gonna swap out the blade in this knife because I've been using this a lot. So for this cut, I want to make sure I got it right. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I've been on YouTube. I've been spending a lot of time in the UK lately. So it started with still going on with the debunking stuff with Simon Dan, and that led to Creaky Blinder. So if you're not following Creaky on YouTube, the dude's amazing. It's so much fun to watch him comment on. It started with all the flat earthers, but he does commentating on like all kinds of different videos. So it is a lot of fun. And he's Welsh, so I decided to pick up Welsh as a second language. Amazing. Took me a while to figure out what he was saying, but I'm getting there. What makes it easy with Welsh is that they'll have one word for several different words. So like yud. So you listen with your yuds, and I am 54 years old, and sometimes I'm over there, but sometimes I'm over yud. So I'm figuring it out. Train derailment. Steve, thank you. Yeah, that was insane. That derailment happened about 30 miles from us, 30 miles east of us. Yeah, we're fine. And the way the wind works around here, we were lucky because it just never comes from the east. It always comes from the south, from where we are. So yeah, we were pretty fortunate. That was it was crazy. For those who don't know, on the PA border, Ohio PA border, we had a lot of shipping trains. So oil, coal, livestock, containers, and these trains will have 3 or 4 engines, and then there'll be 100 cars. So in this really small town, just over the border, there was a derailment, and there was a lot of nasty chemicals that were being transported, and it was quite the disaster. So, Lee, did I do all right? I'm still practicing. All right, so I've got that all masked off. And I'm not going to mask off the lettering, and the reason why is because the yellow is close enough to the red that if I get a little bit of overspray on the yellow, it's just going to make the Sunoco sign a little bit more orange, and it's a golden yellow anyway, so I'm good. All right, yeah, we were really fortunate. I mean, it's just crazy. It's weird to look at like when you go on training at, like when you throw something in the GPS and you want to get somewhere, and then Boardman is over there too, which is it's a really nice town, and there's a Canfield, which has a big fair every year, so there's reasons to go over that way. But it's weird when you plug in the GPS and you see like at the time like a quarter of the town, all the roads were shut down, all of them. It's just like you couldn't even go into the town. It was nuts. Awesome, Lee. That's great. I guess the best way that I was able to wrap my head around the Welsh having such a different, and it's funny because Creaky will always say he doesn't have an accent, but the best way that I could kind of wrap my head around it was for over here in the U.S. is if you go like into the deep South, they're speaking English, but it's a whole different language. You know what I mean? It's like you have to really concentrate to understand what they're saying. So pretty much fun. All right. But then again, I also grew up, I'm half Irish, so all the Gaelic stuff was a good primer for that too. All right, so to get this green out of here, and it's not going to take much, but I want to really knock it out. So I'm going to use the opaque Pyro Red, and this is just straight up, primary red. So a good thin mixture of this is going to really, kind of knock that out right away. So let's see, what do I want to do with this? So 1 drop of red. I should shake this first. Just 1 drop of red. And again, thank you for subscribing and hitting that like button. I really appreciate it to everyone. I will give you the sneak preview this week on the time lapse on Friday. Is a razor blade painting, so that'll be fun. If you want to see one of the razor blade paintings in about 15 or 20 time-lapsed steps, that's going to be this Friday. All right, so that is Reducer and 4050. I really shouldn't be doing this over the painting because this is red, and dumping a bunch of red on this would not be a good thing right now, but just want you guys to see what's going on with that. This may even be too much. I may need to reduce this even more. What I want is just like this. I mean, you kind of see it in here. This is really reduced. This is probably, I can't even tell you what the reduction is. Maybe like 1 or 2 drops of red oxide, and then the rest of it is reducer. So that's, and 40-50 in that as well. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for. All right. So what I want to do is, probably easier to show you on a piece of paper or on a paper towel here. What I want to do is I want to have some control over this. Let me get the spray first. Here we go. I want to have some control over this, but I still want to work really lightly. So as I'm kind of painting over that blue, I just want to kind of keep it, still under control, because I don't want to hose the thing down. I don't want to turn Sunoco orange. I just want to really kind of knock out that blue. So I'm going to start in one of the bigger areas, like between the C and the O. And I'm just going to kind of hit this. Now again, this is opaque Pyrrole red, but I added so much reducer and so much 40-50 to it that it's for all intensive purposes, it's transparent. All right, so then I can really check to see how that's working against the rest of it. I can lean back, and that's working out really well. I got to be careful not to push it too hard, because then it'll just overtake the blue and turn it purple. So I don't want that. So all I'm doing is just kind of making vertical strokes between the letters, and then just finishing out on top and the bottom. And I'm putting probably about 8 or 9 passes on each one, on each line, to kind of really make sure that it's just kind of tinting the right way. I put a little bit of extra on that C, which is okay, because I can fix that, and I'll show you how I do that in a second. I do have one extra little bit of show and tell too. It's sitting right here. I should have grabbed it. As soon as I'm done with this, I'll show it to you too. So for the Monday night feed, I was working on these. I got these little, they call them art panels, but they're just little cut up pieces of clayboard that ampersand cells. And so I did a painting on one of those Monday nights. So I finished it. So I'll show you the finished one in a second. Now I just kind of lean back and take a look, and it looks really good. I did get a bunch of yellow on that. So for the yellow, there's a couple ways that I can kind of get rid of that overspray. There's a lot of yellow on these letters, and then there's hand-painted highlights on it. So there's a lot of paint on here. The overspray isn't going to stick real well. So the first thing I can try before I get into repainting those letters is to just kind of run the eraser. And this isn't a very aggressive eraser. It's like just a regular pink eraser, but then in a pencil. So this is 7056 from Faber-Castell. So what I can do first is I can just try to erase the overspray on the letters, and usually that does the trick. Because again, this is really, really thin, the red, and I don't put a whole bunch on there, so I can usually knock it right off. So I'm going to first hit all the letters, get any of the red off that I can. And then in an instance like the C where I kind of hit it a little bit too hard, I'm just, oh, I should do that. Yay, let's do that. I'm going to switch over to the little palette camera here. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just jump down to the yellow. Hopefully this isn't, oh, it isn't dried out. Good deal. So I'm going to grab the yellow here, which is, these are the two colors that I used. These guys are over far enough, right? Yeah, these are the two colors I used to do all those letters. So I'm just going to grab some of the bright yellow. Like down here, especially where this C took a lot of hit with the red. Actually, let me put them over here now. Move you guys over a bit so you can see what's going on. There we go. Does your eraser push the color around? No, not if it's dry. That's a great question. Yeah, once it's on the clay board and dry, it doesn't. It will just it'll just basically scratch it off or rub it off. So, all right. So yeah, anywhere where there was a little bit, you know, like I couldn't get the red off. Say it was too close to the edge. I didn't want to get the eraser on the blue part. Now I can use this yellow color to kind of reline it and just, you know, clean it up a little bit, like down near the C. Like I can't get the eraser in the bottom of the C, so I can use the yellow to kind of pull that back. Now it seems like a minor thing, but and it is, but you know, with something like this, it's worth it to kind of, it's like the Open Studio painting, you know, it's worth it to do it right, because I have as much time as I need with this. It just needs to be right. So little adjustments like that will make a big difference in the final painting. You know, Sunoco is, it's like golf, you know, or any company that has their brand, you know, their brand colors. If I start screwing around with that, it just takes away from it to me. I want to make sure that Sunoco color is pretty much what it is. Okay, that's good. And actually I can pull the masking on this. James, what's up? Thank you, James. Love it. So let's rip this off, not rip it off, but so this is one of the big reasons I love this this gold tape. It just, like, even in the window here where there's just really light, like really light fades and, you know, thin black paint essentially, it doesn't pull up the paint very often. I mean, sometimes it does because the paint is super thin, but for the most part I don't get really any of that paint pulling off the surface with this tape, which works really, really well for me. I like that. All right, there we go. Yeah, I'm much happier with that. That pulls all that green out of there. It looks like I missed the middle of the O though. I can see the difference in the middle of that O. I guess I just didn't hit it, so I'll do that right now, since I still have the red stuck in here. That's good. All right, so what we're going to do from here on out is this kind of the rest of the little details down in here. So this will be fun because you guys will kind of see how I kind of developed the building in the background. So I've drawn the whole thing out. It's like, you know, 70% there. So I had everything in the right spot. The only thing I really use to really refine really clear is if there's a straight line. So like in the phone booth here, I wanted all those lines to be really, really straight. The same thing with the uprights, like the electrical, you know, line on the side here and the gutters and those things. Those are all really drawn out straight so that when I paint them, I really have them locked in. You know, stuff like the little car in the background and the details on the awning and that kind of stuff, those I just kind of, you know, did them as they were. But anything like the clapboard lines on the side, the siding on the side of this building, those are all done with a ruler, so they look right. All right, let's get this going. So what this is just a little sign. Can I use red for that? I don't even know what I was trying to make out what the sign said, but it's difficult. Something about buy a car. I can see buy car. So I can get at least that, and there's a little drawing on the bottom of that. This is the phone booth that I've got, but what happened was the phone booth was moved back to here at some point, so I swapped the phone booth back here. So there's the awning right there. So the phone booth is here. We moved the tire rack out, and that's where we're at. So what's really neat is as you start digging into this, it's just so many cool things. There's an old Coke machine back here, which will be fun, and then I'm pretty sure that's a waste barrel for oil or something, and then all the oil cans and everything. I did find this gas pump online too, so the one in the front here, I have all the details for, which I'm pretty excited about too. And yeah, so I guess actually that's that sign right there, not that one, it's that one. So it looks like there's just a wheel balancing is what it says. Now, not that I really need to put wheel balancing on this, but knowing what the letters are just helps a little bit. Honey, while your 543 paintings are amazing, I love watching you do these types of paintings as well. Thanks, honey. Yeah, it's a whole different animal. Marge and I had a really in-depth conversation the other day about the 543s. You know, they're really quick. They're not, you know, I try to get them done in a certain amount of time, as I've always said. So they're really, you know, they're not representative of you know, what I can pull off when I have time and the drive for painting. But on the other side of that, what I absolutely love about the 543s are how they've kind of taken on a life of their own. I wouldn't want to do only 543s, you know, and that's it. But I love that they are what they are. So much fun. It's like a detective story, an artist, designer, amazing, really fun to watch. Awesome, James. Yeah, it really is. It's like a historical type of journey. It's been a blast. Like I have with any painting, I have just a file on my computer for that painting, and this one got filled up really fast. There's a bunch of reference photos from all kinds of old Sunoco stations, and what I really got to do is, you can't see it, it's off this side here. There's the big kind of office window, showroom window, and there's a bunch of signs in the window, but I can't make any of them out, and I would really love to have found out what they were, but I'll have to make something up. So all right, so that is, wait, that's not, is that, I gotta make sure I'm looking at the right thing now. Yeah, that's the wheel balancing. Okay, I'm right. I was getting confused there on that one. So what I'm gonna do, I think I can get at this. What I wanna do first is remove some of the pencil lines off of this. Just lighten it up a little bit. There's also some scuffs on the edge, which I can kind of take out. All I really need to know is where that is and what it looks like. So I'm just kind of lightly hitting this. When I get all the main part, I can also use a kneaded eraser too. That's a nice way to get the really light, if you want to lighten all the lines, it's a good way to do it. Also, it's great at getting like fingerprints off. On some areas, which I've already taken them all off, like I think it was last week on the bottom part down here, like right around here, I think somewhere, there was literally a coffee stain. Like there was a tiny bit of coffee on it, which is not surprising if you know me. But I ended up sanding that off. So what I'll do in that instance, if there's something that really needs to, like if it's a lot of paint, I can just take a piece of like 1000 grit sandpaper like this, and because this has auto-borne sealer on it, all I need to do is just kind of like erase it with the sandpaper, and it removes, you know, any of the other junk. I just don't want anything that's going to pop forward. Oh, thanks, James. Gary Sheets, what's up, buddy? All right, so let's do it. So I'm going to start by, I think I might start by hitting this little guy with some white. There's a white, looks like a pole next to it, and then the phone booth. So we'll start just working on this area right here. Oh, what is this? I made that up. Lovely. That little white pole I made up. Because in the photo, Pete, the original owner of the gas station, is standing right in front of this pump, which is right here. So that's where Pete would be, right there. So I actually made up that pole behind there, but that's fine. All right, so do I want to hit this with white first, or can we just go for it? Nah, I want to hit it with white. There's some weird stuff in there. So after this painting, I have another commission right after it. I actually ordered the ampersand for it because it's a larger painting. It's going to be 16 by 20 of a T38, which will be a lot of fun because it's for an organization that actually runs a charity for wounded veterans. So that's going to be a great painting. I've done a small painting for them already, and they're going to do a larger painting. So I'm going to see if I can show some of that while I'm working on it, because that'll be a lot of fun. I haven't done a good big aviation painting in a while. Michael Stevenson, what's up? What's going on? All right, so I'm going to use straight up white, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two things here. So I had a blowout on the phone booth, which isn't a huge deal, but since I've got white in the brush here, I'm just going to kind of really lightly, as soon as I get it to spray, there we go, kind of lightly just reprime all this stuff right here. I don't want to get too much on the top side of it because I don't want to mess up that car that's in there, but this will just kind of take the curse off, like that blowout right there, and it'll also take any of the weird dirt that's still on there that I couldn't get rid of. I'll leave the white in there because I'll probably end up using the white again. Wallpaper size. Yeah, and it's funny too because the two jet prints that I have are both about the same size. They're both about 16 by 20. That was 20 by 24 was my go-to size when I was doing all the aviation stuff before. So 20 inches by 2 feet. But I just kind of moved away from that as I was working to the smaller stuff. So it'll be fun to stretch there's a lot of detail on this jet painting, which is why we decided to go bigger on it. And it'll make more sense when you see it. So I'm going to put some white in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint everything around this sign first. Some scruffy grass on there too. So I'm going to use a little bit of white and a little bit of black. These are all pre-reduced, so I should probably do just a stock video on that so you guys can see the reductions. But I always hesitate with that because reduction is more dependent on the airbrush that you're using than the paints that you're using. So I'm afraid to say this is what I use for this reduction and then have someone try it and not work because they have a totally different airbrush. So there's just a really light gray. Yeah, and Honey's, she also has been drawing a whole bunch. So if you are not a member of, I started a page just kind of by accident called Black and White Art. So Honey's been posting a lot of her work everywhere, but she also posts on that when she does her drawings. So they're worth checking out. Plus she's saving lives, which is, what makes Honey awesome. Mer. That's the new word, awesome-mer. So the other thing I've been learning, listening to a lot of Welsh and, well, I guess, obviously Wales is in the UK too, but that whole area, I've been learning all kinds of great new insults. It's just, some of them are seriously making me cry. Just hilarious. So I can't repeat a lot of them. So, but the Brits have a wonderful way of insulting you, and if you're not from there, you never knew it happened because the word sounds fancy, but it's really not. So Yeah, exactly. Mike knows. Yeah, and that's a great way to put it. Reduction is completely situational. That's why it makes me crazy when, I see people give out reduction ratios, or this is how I do it, when it's just throwing it out there, and everyone has all these different airbrushes, and it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So unless you have exactly the same airbrush, the same pressure, all that fun stuff. All right, let's get to it. I know. That's absolutely true. That's when when I was in Norway, it's the first thing I asked. I'm like, okay, so give me all the bad words. All right. So you guys are in? All right. So what I'm going to do, again, the background is designed to be in the background. So I really don't want a lot of like super crazy hard edges back here. Even though this sign is really part of the foreground, it's a sign in the gas station lot. The stuff behind it is really what I'm talking about. So I don't want like that, really sharp edge, because if I have a super sharp edge, it's going to feel like that's, more forward than it really is, or than I want it to feel, even if it was really sharp. Like that car is sharp in the picture. You can actually make it out. There it is right there. So you can make that out. Old Chevy, I think. But I don't want it that sharp. I want it kind of tucked in the background. I want it to disappear, because it's neat when you work with someone, especially with bigger commissions. I want to make sure that the person is getting really exactly what they want. I mean, I want to make sure people get what they want anyway. But with the bigger commissions or a commission that means something to someone, like deeply, I really want to make sure I have exactly what they're going for in it. So with Tony, he was really specific about not really having the background be a part of it. So in going back and forth, I mean, I really didn't feel good about leaving it out, just having a like a blank area here. And there was no way to show the gas pumps without having something behind it, unless we turned this into an empty lot, and even that didn't feel right. But anyway, but I knew it was important to him, or know it's important to him, to have not a whole bunch of emphasis on that background. So that was a big reason why I ended up really trying to make this softer and more in the background. So now I've drawn in the lines for the phone booth, and I'll kind of, because the phone booth is technically in the middle ground here on the gas station lot, the phone booth will actually be pretty sharp, but this background here around it, really won't be. And again, this is a lighter gray, so this is a good one to kind of just throw in a general tone. I can clean it up after. And you can see the spider webbing here and all that. I really wasn't worried about that. I was kind of doing it last minute. So this phone booth is actually see-through. These three panes right here, you can actually see right through them. So I've got this little line kind of in the dark area underneath the awning. So I'm going to kind of continue some of those. And again, this isn't anything that's got to be super perfect. It really is just kind of like just implying it. This window will be completely dark. Well, maybe I'll have an upright in that too. And like literally just making it up. The actual phone booth, I'm going to paint on top of it, so I'm not overly worried about getting extra airbrush, extra paint on it, because I'm going to end up going over it anyway. So I'm just really kind of fleshing it out. Now this bottom panel, I'm feeling is going to be just dark, because everything is dark behind it on this side of it. And here is where I can get rid of that blowout that I had before, which again I wasn't really worried about because I knew that it'd be covered. And if you guys have any questions, just shoot them out. I know I keep saying it, Thursday is just kind of like you guys hanging out with whatever I got going on here. But if you guys can get something out of it, then I am all for that. So these, as you're looking through the phone booth, these will be a lot darker in the end. This just acts like that primer, that underpainting. And I love doing this because it's it just makes the painting more interesting to have a bunch of different layers instead of just saying, okay, this is, you know, dark gray, so I'll paint it dark gray. If I do this and then do it dark gray, if there's like ins and outs like there are up in here, it just has so much more interest. So that's something that I learned from my uncle, who was a Marine combat artist, that, you know, those dark areas, they can't just be blank areas. You know, that there has to be something in there. Even if it's really subtle, it gives someone a place to kind of look around, essentially, in the painting. So the bottom section, it's also gray. And then this is the bottom frame. Now on the bottom of this whole area, there's like this scruffy grass, like the walk that kind of goes up to the phone booth and then continues on in front of the sign. So I'll do that after. That will be green, so I don't want to hit that with anything like that. And then the other stuff is those poles, I guess. Now the tape did lift up a little paint up in here, but it's not a big deal. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else that needs to be gray. The top of this. And again, yeah, I can't stress it enough. If you guys and girls have any questions, just let me know. Really like working with an underpainting. It does seem to help me achieve decent depth. Yeah, Simon, that's it. And I think a lot of it too is just the fact that you have to fight back in case it doesn't, you know, it isn't exactly the right color or value. I think that just that back and forth and adding in more and more paint or moving it around, I think just adds something. It makes it more complex. Like this gray up here, which you can just see in the corner of the screen, that's pretty much a one-shot thing. So it is what it is. But if this was underpainted and then had, like, you know, a little bit darker gray put on in some spots, and it would look more natural than just kind of like plastered on there, which it kind of looks like now. So yeah, I love making sure there's a bunch of paint on here. All right, so we're going to kind of drop this whole area back here now that I've got the little kind of details in there. Because again, inside the phone booth here, it's going to be a lot darker ultimately. And now the frame of the phone booth is actually going to be very sharp because I want that to pop forward. So I'll get to that once we get to the paintbrush stuff. Why is Yupo paper used for high detail work like realism portraits? What makes it popular versus other canvases? So Gary, the Yupo is incredibly smooth and consistent. So where some papers have a tooth to it, which it's supposed to, you know, if you're using like graphite or pastel or something, you know, you need a tooth for it to grab onto. The Yupo is just by the way they make it is just really, really smooth. That allows you to get like micro small details without wrestling with the fiber. The other thing that I really like about it is because it's not a natural paper product, it's virtually indestructible. So I know that when I do a painting on them, it's going to last forever. So that's a big thing too. So I think that's why it's so popular with this, you know, micro detail crowd. Simon, first time I really tried it was Catwoman portrait. I was worried that the skin tone would cover the black and gray too much, but it didn't at all. Yeah, and then that's the fun part. Again, Simon, is fighting back from that. Honey says maybe because you can erase and push and pull, it's also smooth the surface. So yeah, that's a big thing too. It's a really, really tough surface too. So for erasing and things like that, you can't burn through it. I mean, you can mess it up. It does have layers to it. And the only reason I know that is because I had taped down a bunch of pieces to prime with the yellow, just a regular 3M tape, and that's super aggressive. And when I pulled off some of the tape, it pulled off this really thin layer on the back, you know, little spots like blistering. So I don't know. I'd love to see how they make it, but it's the only time I've ever seen any kind of delamination or fault with it. And not even fault, that's not a good word. Any kind of just, you know, delamination, I guess. So, all right, that looks really good. So that's phone booth. That's going to be a white pole. That's the Sunoco sign. Yeah, that's right. I made up that white pole. That's right, too. Okay. Yeah, and there's grass in the front. And the grass in the front here on the bottom, I'm not going to do yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, not during this feed, but I'm going to, next step is to do the base coat for the whole, all the, you know, the asphalt in the lot. And then I'll put the grass on top of that. So that's kind of the idea behind that. Yeah, let me show you. Since, for those who aren't familiar, what am I doing? Back up a little bit. So this is what we're talking about with that Yupo paper. It's made by Legion, is the paper company. They make all different kinds of paper, but one of the types of paper that they make is this it's not even paper, it's polypropylene. So it's basically a sheet of plastic. But again, like, I don't know how they do it. There are layers to it. So I think the actual business sides, the actual surface has a specific finish on it that they have. So it is very, very cool stuff. So what I do is I end up just putting Autoborn sealer on it, and then I'll sand this. And this is the stuff I do all the 543s on. However, I have been working on, like, if I have been working on it in larger sizes too. So for instance, that jet painting that I did, the first painting for the one that the bigger one is following, that was done on Yupo. It was done on a 5x7 sheet of Yupo. You can get it in a bunch of different sizes. You can get it in a couple different thicknesses. I had the lightweight first. It's really light. Like, I don't know, it really didn't like sit with me well. So I've just been using the heavier stuff all the time. And it comes, like I said, in all different size pads, and I actually buy it in sheets. So and yeah, comparatively it's more expensive than paper, but not much. And if you take its virtues, you know, for instance, like that it will literally last for, you know, a long time. That's worth a couple extra bucks you pay for a sheet. So that is Yupo. Yeah, I was funny because when I was first looking for it, you know, it comes up as Yupo, and I didn't realize that. I thought Yupo was the company name, but it's not. It's Legion Paper Company. Very, very good stuff. Yeah, paper does, especially paper. Like when I used to work on illustration board, that was my biggest fear. Like, illustration board is just really nice paper mounted on usually an acid-free kind of cardboard. I mean, you have to take care of any artwork that you collect, but art on paper is you know, can last for hundreds of years, but it's so much more subjected to moisture and it's a natural product, so you can get, you know, mold in it if it's not stored correctly. Just the fact that stuff is, you know, a man-made product that has really none of that interaction, just makes me happy. You know that that's one thing I could scratch off my list of things to worry about. It's like, you know, this same kind of thing with the ampersand board. It's clay board, but then it's on a prepared piece of fiber board that they make. So just making sure that it's, like I said, I just want this stuff to last forever, especially if someone invests in it. I want to make sure they have it for as long as they can possibly have it for. All right, let's move on. So I think I'm going to darken this up again. I'm going to leave the sign. Am I going to leave the sign? No, I'm not going to leave the sign. I'm going to do it. All right, so what I'm going to do, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me grab a little bit of gray here. I think I'll just paint in the words. I was going to airbrush them in, but I'll show you a trick. Okay, so it says by car here. I don't know what it says above it. You can do something by car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the by car with the paintbrush, but then I'm just going to kind of hit it with the airbrush, and I'm going to do all the other letters that I can't read with the airbrush. So it'll be kind of a neat combination of the two, and that will give me the rundown for this sign. It's probably a good thing I don't know what this sign says, because one of the traps with signs and lettering in hyper-realist paintings is if we know what it says, we want to paint in all the letters. Because we know what it says. Our brains, it's like that one of those classic things I was talking about. Our brain wants to take over and says, I know what that says, so I'm going to write out all the letters. So, yeah, I can't see what it says. So, why would I paint that, make stuff up if I really can't see it? I need to just turn my brain off and paint exactly what I see. Can use a Yupo paper with other mediums like colored pencils. Yeah, Enzo, I really think you can. I think what it will boil down to is the surface. Like that Yupo paper, the stuff I buy is very, very smooth. So I don't know that colored pencils would have the right kind of bite. That being said, if you were to spray that with Autoborn Sealer, which has a kind of not grainy, well, it depends on how you spray it, but the Autoborn Sealer has kind of an openness to it. So if you were to spray with Autoborn Sealer, I think colored pencils would work really, really well on this. Now, I don't know all the types of paper that they have. I know they do have a bunch of different kinds of paper. So it's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. All right, took my meds and back to bed I go. Every time I watch it, I feel like I need to slow down. Mike, I hope you feel better, buddy. And thank you again, man. I cannot tell you what that means. That was an amazing thing to open up. Thank you. All right, so I've got the gray in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray out a bunch of that and then add a little bit more black to it. So I'm going to want a darker gray, but I might as well use what I got in here. So put a couple drops of black in here. And as Mike leaves or heads out, William Klein, what's up? Like I said, if you're not following Mike's brush, make sure you do. A lot of great content, a lot of great live videos. Just a good trip all around. And I'm still trying to get in touch with James. I think it's James Halcrow. So I did the thank you for hitting 1,000 subscribers, and I'm working to give away a 543 for that. So I've commented on James's post, and it sounds like he knew he won. But if James, if you're watching, I need you to get a hold of me and pick your painting, and I will ship that out. He's in the UK also, which is kind of fun. All right, so that's the darker gray. Oh, no problem, no problem. So for the darker gray, it's just, again, this is what's nice. I've got all the lighter gray in the phone booth now. So now it's just a matter of kind of darkening up different areas. And this is exactly how I did the building above. Make sure I get this flowing a little bit. So this is how I did the building above. I started off with the lightest gray for the building and basically painted everything in. I'm going to reduce this out a little bit more too. So I'll tell you what the other advantages of doing it this way too in a second once I get this mixed up. All right. So I just added a bunch of that reducer in 4050 to it because I really want this to flow really well. So another good advantage of doing it this way with an underpainting too is now that I need to start getting into the details, I can really over reduce this paint, and that'll give me a lot more control over the paint. I'm not worried about coverage anymore because I've got the gray, light gray all over it. All I'm worried about really now is just kind of getting the details in. So by having thinner paint, I'll have more control over it and I'll be able to do that. But I couldn't do that unless there was a base of color on there to start. Just kind of cleaning out the brush, making sure it's going to work for me. All right. So yeah, so now I've got this like darker gray, but it's really thin. But it does the job. Like it'll be able to put in these details in a controlled way. Just make sure I'm not making stuff up here. That's good. Oh, there's a bar that goes down the whole thing too. Oh no, that's a fence. Lovely. Okay. What am I looking at? So if you watch the little gradation video I did on Tuesday, this is kind of the same idea. So while I'm trying to get this really nice fade on this bottom section, what's nice is I already have the middle gray on there. So as I fade into this, it makes a really smooth transition. If I just had that darker color and was trying to do that, it's going to be a lot more grainy because the fade doesn't have anything to sit on. If I wanted to go nuts, I could do it more like the video and do 2 or 3 different values to get this fade. It's overkill for this little section, but you certainly get the idea. Steve, did you paint the siding lines with a paintbrush? William, I absolutely did. So the trick with that is, that would have been a good demo too. So what I did with that is I take just a regular ruler. I've got perspective, like a vanishing point on this painting, and I'll just start with a pencil, the ruler, and I'll draw all those in so I get them all in the right spot. And then what I'll do is I'll take the kneaded eraser and lighten all those up so I can barely see them, and then take the paintbrush and the ruler again, just kind of tilt the ruler like this, and then put the ferrule on the ruler, line it up, make a few passes before I actually touch it, and then that lets me paint a perfectly straight line with the paintbrush. And then just rinse and repeat across. Again, all the pencil lines are showing me where they go and the separation and the perspective on them. So then all I'm worried about with the paintbrush is just going over those graphite lines. So what you're seeing is paint, even though it looks gray. So hopefully that makes sense. Brain surgeon. James, no, not really, but thanks. I'll take all of it but brain surgery because, yeah, you wouldn't want me doing any kind of work on anyone's brain. I can't work on my brain. So, ooh, why is that moving? Should be moving. All right. Oh, no problem with it. Yeah, that's cool. I love doing that. I figured out that technique on, there's a painting, a little mini painting I did of this little street in Massachusetts, all the way down Cape Cod. So Cape Cod in Massachusetts is this little kind of peninsula. Not little, it's big. It sticks out at all right, it's not geographically big, but for Massachusetts it's big. It sticks right out in the ocean, goes all the way out in the ocean and hooks around like a big arm. So at the very, very tip of that peninsula is a town called Provincetown, and it's very eclectic and very artsy and very, well, colorful. And so anyway, so I did a couple paintings from that town, and that's one of the buildings had, that kind of thing going on. So that's kind of how I picked up that technique for that. I should have done the rest of the letters with the light gray before I switched to dark gray. I'm all distracted. All right. So that is the background for that. So now I'll just fill in the rest of where you can see this building behind through the phone booth. I'll do that. And then what I'll do is I'll probably finish the phone booth with you guys, and then probably jump off because a few other things I need to get done today. My goal is to have this painting done by next week. That's the goal. That's a huge order. That's a tall order. But that's kind of what I'm pushing myself for. With this other painting coming in, I want to kind of make sure I'm not working on 2 big paintings at the same time. I mean, I can do it, but it would dominate things around here, and I'd rather not have that. So if I can get this one, if I can get this one almost like pretty much done, I'll be a happy camper. What I'm also excited about this painting is I've already talked to the person who's commissioning it, and he wants prints. He wants to give them to people that he knows that remember the gas station and all that. So it'll be fun to be able to work with him on that, because he'll actually end up using my printer to do that, which will be nice. The prints will be amazing. They'll be just like the real painting. that's how I would do it. Yeah, awesome, William. Yeah. Yeah, as I don't know, that kind of stuff. I really, really like those kind of details, like the you know, like the lines in here. What I like about them is that, you know, if I do them right, they're really subtle. Like, you don't pick up on it. Like, it isn't, you know, oh, look what I did kind of detail. It's just in there in the background, and it makes it look right. You know what I mean? And I love those. I love those details. I love putting in details that make an impact, but subconsciously almost. Those are my favorite for sure. Suppose it would have been easier if I just dropped a piece of masking on the two uprights of the phone booth. Would have kept them clean, but it's not going to ultimately make a difference, because I can do it opposite. I'll show you when I go to paint in those uprights. I'll put a piece of tape on, you know, on either side, and then I'll just be able to spray them white. So what I'm doing, since these three sections here are windows in the phone booth, so you're actually looking through to this, you know, this area behind here. That's kind of what I'm keeping in mind as I'm like kind of going back and forth. I want to leave it a little bit lighter in value because of the glass that's there, but not, again, it's more subtle. I don't want it to be crazy, you know, super light. I just want it to be kind of a little bit different. Makes realism. Yeah, I agree. Gary, today's young generation would be like, what's a phone booth? Yeah. Exactly. All right. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm going to... Actually, this bottom panel, I did such a nice job on that fade, and I don't even need it. It's actually a lot darker. So I'm just going to fill that in, and then I'm going to hit it on the next pass, I think. And I think this gray might work on the sign, too. We'll give it a shot. The worst that'll happen is I'll just end up, you know, going over it with white. So I don't know how close I can zoom in. I think that's it. Oh, no. Wow. Holy crap. Hopefully this will be able to focus. So all I can really see are the text lines above it. So I'm just going to kind of drop those in. This paint is probably a little bit too thick for this, but I think it'll work. And then I'm just going to hit random spots on the other letters to kind of... There's a little drawing down the bottom just to kind of break that up a little bit. That'll give me a better view of it. Awesome. Yeah, I love that. Like, I feel like if that's wrong, if the perspective, like even the basic overall perspective is right, you can get away with some stuff. But yeah, if it's wonky, that can always, it's the first thing that kills a good painting. All right, so I've got those. Actually, we'll leave you kind of in here. I'll back you a little bit so you can see what's going on. I'll just hit it with this darkest area now, behind the phone booth and those other areas, and then I'll be able to do the rest of the phone booth, and we'll be pretty much ready to go on this. Did you ever paint any invisible pumps on a painting? Yeah, Gary, I did do one. I did a 543, but I think the reason why you don't remember it is because I think that one was one of the mystery paintings that I was doing for a short time there. So yeah, I did, and it actually had color in it too. It was an old Texaco pump. So that one's gone. Those things are awesome though. All right, so I'm just cleaning out the brush. Gonna throw in a little bit of black, and that'll give me the end of this phone booth here. Honey, have a great one. Get back to business. That's awesome. James. Oh, wow, that's pressure. The air pressure or the pressure to finish the paintings? Air pressure is about 35. I always run higher air pressure. It's just I've got used to it. I wasn't a t-shirt airbrusher, unlike most airbrush artists. That seems to be the gateway drug of airbrushing, is doing t-shirts, and it builds this amazing technical, like your chops are usually really good when you start off on t-shirts because it's so high demand. But the other thing that comes with that, t-shirt artists generally always run, even later on when they're working with thinner paints, always run high pressure. Like you look at Scott McKay is a perfect example. Scott does all his stuff with super high air pressure because that's the way he learned. I was doing all acrylic based paints, which are tough to spray also, so that's why I ended up with higher pressure. But if you talk to someone who started airbrushing strictly with automotive paints, they usually work on really low pressure. So now it's, like I said, it's totally dependent on the paint. I mean, it's always dependent on the paint, but even more so. All right, so this is black, but it's just really reduced black. It's 1 part paint to 10 parts reducer. Yeah, I always had the amazing amount of respect for, I still do, watching a t-shirt artist, especially do lettering, like good lettering. It's its own art form, and it's a high art form. It takes so much skill and technique to have that smooth of a line and have that much control over the airbrush. It always blows me away. All right, so again, I got black in here. What I'm going to do first is there's some damage from the tape when I had originally taped this. So since I'm thinking of it, I'm just going to fix that right now. But it also gives me a chance to make sure the brush is working well, because if something goes sideways in here underneath the awning, you really can't see it. So it's a good chance to make sure the airbrush is going to work okay. And it is. And again, so since I'm just kind of picking around, I'm going to use this time again to say thank you to everyone. I've had this YouTube channel, I think I mentioned it, I've had this YouTube channel since 2011, and I've never used it. I was like, there was nothing going on in it. So about 6 months ago, I decided, you know what, I need to make sure this platform is viable in case, Facebook goes sideways, since I do most of my live feeds on Facebook. But you guys have been amazing in your support of this page, so I deeply, deeply appreciate it. Onward and upward. As long as I still can, we'll keep putting stuff on. So, all right, now that I've got the brush working well, I'm going to come down and just kind of put in those darkest areas on the phone booth. So all this stuff is inside the phone booth that I'm doing right now. The real thing that's going to pull this off, and you'll see this when I do it, the real thing that's going to pull it off is the frame. Once I get the white frame in, it's really going to kind of stand out. This top section too, I may go online and look to see if that top section is blue. That's where it would say telephone. So I'm going to not paint that. I'm going to leave that for now. I'm going to do a little bit of homework on that to see if that's really what's going on there. I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of phone booths that I've known, and I'm pretty sure that that's what goes on there. So now I'm just going to finish up the areas that you can see through the windows to the back. And again, I'm keeping this really general. I don't want to make this anything really sharp. That's good. I don't use Facebook, so I'm only here. Well, that's awesome, William, and that's a good way to be. I have been spending way more time. Actually, I've been spending more time watching YouTube than even TV lately. I love the control of the content. You know what I mean? I can pretty much go look up whatever I want to look up, and I really, really like that. Plus, one of the things that's great about YouTube as opposed to Facebook as far as live feeds and videos is it's much easier to organize the YouTube videos than it is to organize them on Facebook. So Facebook, they just simply appear in the timeline. Or, if you go to photos and videos, they appear there, but they're all kind of lumped together. YouTube lets me divide them into sections like I have, so one is the Tech Tuesday, one is just live feed. So if all you want to do is watch live streams, you just click on that playlist on my channel and you can watch all of them in a row. So it's not like you have to keep bouncing around trying to look for them and find them. So it's just, and I mean, it makes sense because YouTube was built from the beginning for videos. That's what it's for. So yeah, so I really like the platform a lot. My goal as it grows too, there will eventually be a like a Patreon type part of it. It's gonna be down the road though, and it's gonna be as a result of, you know, hopefully as the channel grows, it'll warrant that. But that'll just be a place where I can do a little bit of extra, you know, content back and forth with people. But again, that'll be size driven for the channel. So, and it won't take away from anything that's going to ever go on with the channel, because once I get things kind of buttoned up, which I feel like it's just about there as far as the content and the type of content that I want to put on here, anything extra will be just that. It'll just be added in. All right, I feel good about that. Again, really soft and kind of muted, but the paintbrush is what's going to take care of it. Well, not really the paintbrush to start, but the sharp edges are really what's going to take care of that. Yeah, William, yeah, that's what I was just saying too. Yeah, I definitely, well, I mean, while I'm working, I have it just running, which is nice. All right, so I'm going to do something dangerous. I'm going to put paint on tape on that paint that I just put down. Generally, this paint really solidifies on the surface, really locks onto the surface in about 10 to 15 minutes. And then it's on there after 24. So what I want to be careful of is that I don't really burnish this tape down. If I pull a paint here, it's an easy fix because it's all black. You know what I mean? Black and grays. But again, I don't want to make more work for myself. So pressure on getting your painting done. Sorry if I slow you down, but oh, thank you, James. No. That's what Thursdays are for, really. That's why we're doing this. So because you know, I have a bunch of people on Monday nights from the UK and Germany, and you know, they're up really late on Monday. Sorry about my fingers in the way. They're really up late on Mondays to kind of hang out. So I wanted to do another feed. I knew I wanted to do another feed. So it just really made sense to do the second feed at a time when people on that side of the pond, you know, don't have to stay up all night, essentially. All right, I'm gonna take care of this. This tape is amazing. It's super thin, so you got to be real careful not to, you know, yeah, I mean, it takes no pressure to cut through it, which takes a little bit of practice, especially, you know, like when I look back at my early stuff, I had such a heavy hand when it came to cutting masks and frisket. I look at my older paintings and you can see the dig marks in all the boards and everything. It was pretty bad. So this tape, like I said, is really thin. So it doesn't take much to cut through it. There we go. Grass down the bottom. It doesn't really matter. Okay. There is no grass. Never mind. It's asphalt right in front of this. So what I'm doing is I'm just taping off everything that's not going to be white. Essentially, oh, you know what? This made up hole that I have here, that's white also. So I'm going to cut that out as well. Now, the same thing here. So I was kind of real general with that other airbrushing because it's in the background. But again, this airbrushing, these edges I want really sharp. I really want these to pop out. Because I want these to really kind of help pull the phone booth away from the background. I don't want it super crazy standing out, but I do want it to kind of feel like it's more forward than the building in the background. I'm not worried about the sign. I am a little bit worried about this strip right here. This is, as my good buddy Chris Arpin says all the time, this is just cheap insurance. I'm wasting a piece of tape essentially to make sure that's covered. Now I don't have to worry about it. If I didn't, and I'm spraying this with white, there's a good chance that there'll be a white overspray all the way out here, and that would suck. So I don't want that. So I still have white in the brush over here. So Now I'm going to spray this all out. So this, even though it's masked off, I'm going to take this again in light layers. There's no rush to get this covered. Oh, you know what I'm going to do too? Again, cheap insurance. I don't want anything going up. Here, let me back out a little bit so you can see. I don't want anything going up on this sign or any of that really. So I'm going to build a little dam here. So what I do is I just kind of put a piece of tape on here like this. And then instead of taping it down, what I do is just kind of fold the ends down like this. And then that creates this little wall right here. So that way I don't have to put this tape on the paint, even though it's not going to pull it up, but still now I don't have to worry about it. And that's going to stop all the paint from going that way. I'm going to do the same thing right here just in case. Because again, it's cheap insurance. It's one little tiny piece of tape, but it's going to make sure that it doesn't get any, I don't get anything on all that stuff I just did. Yeah, that's the other thing. Exactly, James. FBS tape. Yeah, this is... Oh, let me... I think I can grab it. Hold on. I have this pegboard wall in front of me, and it's hanging on that. So that is KU TG Gold. And the one I have here is 1/2 inch, but it comes in all different sizes, including sheets and large rolls. But that's, yeah, the gold tape. And I use a ton of it. I use it all the time. So that is my, I mean, for the most part, yeah, I don't have the big roll over here, but even if it was a big thing, like if I need to block off all these buildings, I have a big roll for like a 6-inch roll that I would just spread it out and put it on. And what's nice is you can see through it. So there's a green one too, like it's even thinner, but I've been using this for so long now that I haven't even bothered to try to get the other stuff. I probably really like it, but again, it's like, it's definitely one of those, if it's not broke, don't fix it type of thing. All right, so just again, it's really light layers over and over again. Light layers because it keeps it going down really smooth. It keeps it from getting, you know, spider webbing all over the place, and it lowers the chance that there's any overspray. If I just hose it down, you know, really hard to get it to cover really fast, it's a good chance stuff's going to go everywhere else. So this is really nice this way. Much higher tip dry with the white, but that's pretty much expected because it's just what white does. All right, I think that's going to be good. This is the same as the plotter's mask. You can, Steve, you can definitely plot with it. I know Scott does. I think he uses the other mask though more for plotting. But I've seen people use the green stuff too. So yeah, that's, you know, I don't do very much plotting at all, if any, so I don't really know exactly, but I have seen people use it for that, which is why it comes on the paperback. Good. All right, so I pulled that one first just to see how it looked, because if I go and pull everything off, and it's not, you know, just where I want it, it would kind of suck because I'd have to retape it all up. So I just kind of pull up one spot of it to see what it looks like, and that looks really good. And yeah, not bad. Was a few little holidays, but nothing really outrageous. Nothing bad at all. So there you go. Totally white. Again, if that was all white and I masked that off first, all I would need to do is peel off the tape. So there's that way too. But either way. Are you running one airbrush with the whole painting? No, Steve, I normally have 3 that I use. So this new Krios I got, but normally this is an HPC, so I need something that's 0.3 millimeter. So that's what this is. And when my old HPC was kind of feeling its age, I just grabbed this one to try it out. So it's a 0.3 for that. That has all the white in it, which works better with the heavier paints. The workhorse is the the Micron C. So this does a lot of the real fine detail, but can also handle a decent thickness of paint. So you get good balance of opacity and detail. And then finally, which I need to get a new nozzle for because I ruined it, is the B. And this one is what I use for really all the fine, tightest details. So those are usually the three that kind of see the most use around here. Thin also leaves no edges too. Yeah, exactly. Yep. All right, so there we go. What am I doing? I don't need the airbrush now. All right, next up is, so now I get to kind of pick at the details with the paintbrush. So let's start with, knock out the inside of this. So for the inside of the phone booth, it's got a little bit of gray, like a light gray. For this, I think I want these fairly straight, so I'll do this with the ruler. See if that's not light enough. Okay. And choose this one. Are you running? Oh, there we go. I already got that one. Sorry. All right, so what I got to do is I got to make sure before I do this, so I'm going to take a step back. And so what I'm doing is I'm using the perspective line from this top of the building. And you guys are at an angle, so it's going to look wonky to you guys. But I'm using that perspective line to make sure that I've got this line in the right, going in the right direction. So you guys can see how that works. So it's ferrules on the ruler so that I can use the ruler with a paintbrush, which is really neat. Nice trick. I should have started with the top so I can judge it off of the one I just did because I can't see it. But what I'll do in that case is I'll do a real thin one, double check it to make sure it's in the right, going in the right direction. And then once I know it, then I can thicken it up and get it in the right spot. That's number 2. And I got number 3 is up here, so I'll grab that. Oh, Steve, awesome. I'm glad. Now the top one here, remember this is the, I think it's the telephone booth sign, the blue sign. So just to kind of leave a place marker here, I'm going to put the white bar on the bottom. Now, what I probably should do is figure out if it's blue first, paint it blue, and then do the white bar. But like I said, this will just be a place marker for the final pass. So I'll hit the blue, and then I'll go back in and straighten out that, that white one. All right, so that looks really good. Next thing I'm going to do is add the highlights on those bars because there's a little bit of highlight on one side of it, like over here. So I'll lighten that up a little bit. Same thing with this one. And this one too. Looks good. Oh, the bottom has it too. Okay. I missed how you did the lines on the building. Was that a ruler and airbrush too? Yeah, Simon, that's exactly it. Just like I did right here. It's the only difference on the building is I had drawn out all those lines with pencil first because they're easy to adjust. You know what I mean? Like there was an instance in here where these they're not shingles, they're not clapboards, they're whatever they are. The siding. It wasn't siding because it was 1950 or whatever. But anyway, the siding on the side, the siding lines. There was when I started putting these in, they were too close together, so I had to erase them, and that's the beauty of pencil. You just take them out and do them again. So that was it. I'm getting some of that tape. I need all help I can get. James, yeah, it's good stuff. It is good stuff. I like it. I originally started using it, speaking of paper, so when I started doing a lot of those black and white paintings, I was using Canson paper. And what I was finding was even the artist tape I had, was pulling that paper up, pulling the fiber off the paper. So I had a roll of the FBS and I used it on the paper and it didn't pull up the fiber. And I was like, this stuff is great. So if it didn't pull up paper, it wasn't going to pull up anything else. So that was good. All right, that is good. What I should have also done, but I didn't, the pole for this Sunoco sign is also brilliant white. So what I'm going to do, what I could do is take the paintbrush and just paint that white pole in, but it's much more opaque and much easier to airbrush it. So I'm going to finish the phone booth, let all that dry, and then I'll tape off the pole and paint that in too. So we'll leave that for now. All right, that's good. I feel good about that. Oh, I forgot the highlight down on the bottom. So there's a highlight again down the bottom of the phone booth here. And then, oh, I missed that too. So the bottom of the phone booth here is also white. So we'll throw that in there too. Okay. Add some details on here, and this is looking good. So I'll grab some gray and finish up the details on this guy. It's too dark. So when it's too dark like that, I'll just leave it for a second and let it dry, and then I'll just go over it. It should be better. Yeah, it's much better. So I'm just going to let that dry, that little spot that I just put on. And actually this needs to be... Need to add water to this palette too. It's drying out here. So now I can just go over that original one, and because the lighter paint is also opaque, it'll take care of it. Now there's a detail line along here where the hinge for the door is. The door in this is open, so it's folded into the phone booth. So if you've never, if you're old enough to remember phone booths, they have a two-part door, and it just slides, splits in half, and then tucks in. So there's a long line that goes along the edge of this. So I got to get that in too. Can I do this? I really should turn the board, but I'm going to just go for it. Just turn my hand, because it's more of a pain in the ass to reset the camera, turn this all around just so you can see this. I'll wing it. If it comes out shitty, then I'll redo it. So again, it's just a whole lot easier to do with a ruler than to try to nail that, just straight up. So that's good. There's separation here between the pole. I never thought about using a ruler in that way. Right now I'm slapping my head as a base. Exactly, Simon. That's exactly what it is. I actually have a tool that me and one of my very, very good friends, his dad was just really, really a smart guy. So we were talking about just with the mall stick and all that kind of thing. And I developed something with him that I promised that I would totally, kind of bring to fruition. So I've never really done that. I still have it. For him, I really should do that. Kind of finish it up and get it out there. It's a neat thing. It kind of solves that mall stick problem. All right, what I need to do, to grab black. I want a Darth Maul stick. That's what I want. A little bit more black here. So now I can start working on some of the really tighter details on the inside of this. So same thing, just kind of pick those spots. And get those tighter details in. Who knew you could have this much fun painting a phone booth? So now in that case, where I went a little bit too far with that, that's well, now I just put another drop of paint on there. That's an easy fix. So, same thing, I'll let that dry, and then all I need to do is hit it with white. It's pretty much par for the course that there's always like little fixes that need to happen. And again, we talk about those 543s all the time. Those that like that little, well, I probably fixed that, but if there was a little mistake in a 543 like that or an error, I would leave it. That's the difference between, a jumbo painting and then something that isn't quite, that doesn't need to be quite driven into the ground to death. A Sith stick. That's a really good, see, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So the other thing, hopefully you're kind of taking, and you'll see it when I pull back the camera a little bit. This whole thing right here is a lot more detail than this, even though there's a lot going on up here. There's a lot more shadows, like sharp shadows and tighter details, and especially when I get the pole in here and that sign. So this little section right here will pull forward from the other stuff, which is exactly what we're looking for. But I think that's feeling pretty good. What I will do, since I am in the vicinity and I have the black pretty much loaded into this brush, we're going to do this, whatever our by-car sign is. It's the same thing, so like I test it out with a real thin line, and then once I know I have it going in the right direction, I can thicken it up by just pushing the brush down a little bit harder. Oh, good. So this, I'm going right to the edge here. This panel, I'm assuming is going to be framed in a floater frame, which means you'll be able to see all the edges. So that's why I'm kind of, if this is going into a, like a traditional frame, at least an inch of this would be covered anyway. So I wouldn't really have to worry about this kind of stuff. But I'm assuming that this is going to go into a floater frame. If it does go into a traditional frame, because we haven't really talked about it, then I just got to make sure that there's nothing super overly important along any of the edges, which there really is. I'm not planning on it. So if like half this sign gets covered, it would be okay. But I've really become a big fan with these art panels to do these with floater frames. I just really like the way they look. It's really clean. You get to see the whole entire image, and yeah, it just works really, really well. I'm going to leave the base. There's it's like an A-frame type of setup with the sign, but there's going to be a bunch of scraggly grass here. So I'm going to put some of the grass in, then I'll do the frame, and then I'll finish the grass. And it kind of bumps out a little bit here too. So I'm not going to go too crazy with that, but it's a good start. I do have to do a bunch of damage control here on the edge, but that's par for the course too, really. All right, I feel good about that. Let's back you guys up so you can see the whole thing. I will remove the picture. You guys still have to deal with the tape, but it'll give you a pretty decent idea of what's going on here. As I back out a little bit here, I'll turn that off too. Turn palette camera off. So there we go. And I will tilt this a little bit so you guys get more of an accurate kind of, yeah, there we go, more accurate. So yeah, it's a lot of work for that little tiny spot. I mean, that's the size of my thumb, right? But it's just, that's going to start separating the background from the foreground, especially when I get the rest of the stuff in, like the pole. And what's fun is like all the weird stuff that's kind of tucked in the corner here, like the Coke thing, and there's a, I don't know, some other sign right here too. So all that's going to kind of work out pretty well. So I think what I'll do next, once I sign off here, is I might start to get like a base in on the asphalt to kind of get some paint on there, and then I can also remove all the masking once I do that too, and then I can finish the grass. It's not a big deal putting the grass and then doing the asphalt. But if I put the asphalt in first, that grass edge, I only have to do it once. If I go and put all the grass in, which is, 3 or 4 layers of different type of grass strokes, and then I go and do the asphalt, I'll have to clean up the edge, which again, it won't take long to do, but why do it twice? That kind of thing. So I think that's where I'm at right now with this. But I will keep you all up on things. More than likely, this will probably make a appearance next Thursday as well. I would love to have this done by next Thursday, but so it's a tall order, but we'll see what happens. All right, let me switch you guys around. Get the big camera out of the way, and I will say thank you. So again, thank you very much for everyone who came by, or everyone who's watching it after. I really appreciate that. Again, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on there too. It really means a lot. And yeah, that's what I got. So again, Thursdays, I don't know what it's going to be until I get close to Thursday, because you guys are walking in the studio. Yeah, I mean, you guys get to see whatever I'm working on. Monday nights, I try to come up with more of a demo idea. So if there's something you'd like to see, drop me a message. You can put it in the comments here too. And if you can come by on a Monday night, I like to set up those demos for Monday nights, so we can do that. But certainly if you have any suggestions for Tech Tuesday, drop it in one of those comments too. That works out really well. And that's what I got. So thank you. Hope you guys are having a great week. Hope you have a great weekend. And that's what I got. So from Steve Leahy and over the pond. No, other side of the pond. I'll figure it out. For Thursday Live. Thank you all. And I will catch you guys all on the next one. Have a great weekend.